All right, everyone, we should be live. Let's make sure that's actually the case. Over on Rumble, of course. I do see chat is working. Morning, says Morgan Hevron. Good morning. Ahoy and clank, says Flyer Rod. Good morning, Flyer. And Morgan, says Lemon Curd Zero. Morning all, says Flyer Rod. And so on forth. And Salty Badlands saying re and clank to all. So we will make sure that we're actually live over there. A fun news day. We got to talk about wild pigs in Canada. They are becoming an invasive species, and people are warning about that. That's more for levity than anything else. And of course, dumping on Buttigieg, although he might like that. So, maybe we should rephrase that. Get that down here. Just a sec. Let's make sure that everything's working. Everything is fine, I believe. If you hear a rumbling noise in the background, I'm doing dishes. I am making chili tonight, and I'm going to make it double spicy, like, no holds barred levels of spice. Chili powder, of course. Tabasco sauce, of course. And then lots of hot peppers that are chopped up and put in it, too. Yes, we do add beans to our chili, by the way, in this household. We are not from the Southwest. Chili does not have to have beans in it if you're making it extra thick and using it as a topping on a hot dog or a burger or something like that, though. So that's perfectly fine. Just a sec here. All right, we'll start off with the first news story. Talk about fucking tone deaf. Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg told reporters that he plans to visit East Palestine, Ohio, when the time is right. Now, what time would that be? Is it, when the disaster is actually in the news and, people might be there taking pictures of you and your incoherent messaging? No, of course not. You have to wait a while. Pete Buttigieg doesn't want to go to East Palestine because he knows that he doesn't want to be exposed to the chemicals there. It would look awfully awkward if he were carrying a bottle of water with him and bringing food in and then wearing a respirator mask or something like that. That probably wouldn't be a good response. It wouldn't go over so well in the media. So Buttigieg has decided to abandon the people of East Palestine, probably indefinitely. We'll see if he ever even visits to begin with. If he's telling reporters, well, I'll visit when the time is right. Gay Dracula here may not actually ever think that the time is right to do so. It depends on the decontamination effort. Maybe he'll hold a presser upwind several miles away. It'd probably look better than the alternative. Now, why don't you hand Buttigieg a cup of water, filtered fresh from the creek, from that creek down there, and see if he drinks it? Because supposedly the chemical levels are normal, everything's fine, the water's perfect. Your well's not contaminated when bubbles or yellow shit comes bubbling out of your drains. That's normal. It's Ohio, so you're a bumpkin. Pete Buttigieg does not give a fuck about you. That Manx guy. Sticks fix, yeah. Adam THM, watching the propaganda outlets write fanfic a lot about Biden on Ukraine is gross. Biden isn't the president of Ukraine, but they act like he is. Yeah, it's funny. He gets all sorts of kudos for bravely stepping into a war zone with little forewarning to Putin. Well, for photo ops, basically. Zelensky can visit the United States, it's fine. I would notice that they didn't fawn over Trump being the first U.S. president to set foot in North Korea. That was not celebrated the same way as Biden going to a relatively safe part of a country where, no combatant is going to drop a missile on the president of the United States, well, the steward, but in name president, because it would start a nuclear conflagration. So there was no problem there. I like how they turned on the air raid sirens when he landed for absolutely no reason, because there was literally nothing happening at the time. They did that for a photo op, and it was clear propaganda. Yeah, Biden gets kudos for that. The transport secretary who took 2 months off to chest feed the first time he was in office, he can't even be bothered to go to the scene of a major disaster zone. FEMA funds have been freed up finally. Once Trump said, hey, I'm going to East Palestine, FEMA wised up really quickly now, didn't they? You know why they did that? It was to steal the news cycle, to force Trump back out. They're doing the wall of silence thing to Trump, hoping to upend him. They don't want him to be the Republican nominee. If he is, they'll keep doing it, by the way, too. They will attempt to starve all oxygen from his candidacy. They are also behind some of the demoralization and black pills you see online with regards to Donald Trump. We'll be talking about his newest opponent, by the way, in a moment. But I had to ruminate on Buttigieg here, Dracula, not giving a damn about people who were impacted by a major environmental disaster. But don't worry, the legacy media and mainline scientists will tell you that the water there is perfectly fine. Please don't test it yourself. I'm surprised they don't have like a regulation on people hiring an outside group to test the water. In the way, no, FEMA's in charge here. You're not allowed to take any of the water to test it yourself. Probably try to do that. Bocephus, Sticks, if you ever move back to the U.S., are you going to stay in the Northeast or move to Texas or Florida? Florida's off the table because the weather's not right. It's too tropical for my taste. I do like Texas a lot, but it's hard to garden in that climate because it's quite dry in most of Texas. And the non-dry part is full of alligators and wild boars. And yeah, maybe. I mean, you shoot the pig, you can eat it, I guess. You have to make sure that that's cooked well done. You can't have raw bacon from that pig without getting trichinosis, that's for sure. I like the Northeast. I was born in New Hampshire. I've thought about that. There's the Free State Project, very, very limited gun control. The tax rate overall is lower than in Vermont, although they do have a higher property tax. It's non-graduated. I mean, I like Vermont. I just wish that Vermont were properly functioning the way it was 20 years ago. King of Biltong. Good morning from Antons in Roanoke, Texas. Yes, you can get jerky. Clarific 77. Hi, Sticks. Just popping in to say congratulations on passing your driving theory exam. Quick question. Are the road signs in English as well as in Dutch? No, they're in Dutch. So you have to memorize some Dutch words, some Dutch terminology. I passed the exam on my first try. Now I've got to take driving lessons at some point and then pass the actual physical driving exam, and then I can get a car. I figured it'd be good to have a vehicle here because if we're going to split our time between the Netherlands and the United States, it makes sense to have a vehicle just for basic travel. I wouldn't want to drive around the Amsterdam area, though. Jesus Christ, people crazy. Hunter Wadley. Biden got a crowd of 30K supposedly in Warsaw. That's 30 times larger than his biggest crowd in the States. President of whom? The Polish have a more positive view of the United States than U.S. citizens do. This has been actually polled. The same, oddly, is true for the Vietnamese and the Filipinos. Those countries in the world have a more positive view of the U.S. than the U.S. has of their own country, which is sad. Therefore, it doesn't matter that Biden's incoherent. He's still going to draw a large crowd because he happens to be representing a country that is well-liked there in parts of Eastern Europe. Yeah, Lambo or Ferrari? I lean towards getting a Jeep, actually. Either that or some really, really small Euro car because I'm not good at parallel parking, which is something I'll definitely need to take an individual test for. And so having a short car it's a lot easier to pull that off than like if I were driving the Avalon on Dutch roads. I don't think that it would work very well. Troy Davidson. Hi, Sticks. Hi from Japan. How to deal with ingrown toenail. Go to the doctor, I would recommend for that. You don't want to get an infection and lose your toe. If you're in Japan, I mean, I don't know about their medical system. I'm assuming it's pretty on point. Reed Weber, do you have hope for humanity? Seems like corruption and evil has seeped into everything, and I'm trying not to be black-pilled. We've survived this long, and that evil has always been there. It's just more evident now because of greater communication between people. You see stories of evil, major or minor, from halfway across the world 15 minutes after they happen. You didn't do that 100 years ago. You were unaware of those facts. Only what was reported in a newspaper was pertinent. Then you get radio, then you get TV, et cetera, et cetera. Things get faster and more intercommunicative. Even in the early wave internet, things weren't nearly as interrelated in the 90s or early 2000s as in the social media era. They're getting faster and faster. Bad news sells better than good news. You don't hear all of the hopeful stories of orphans that got adopted or people that got together to rehab the garden for little old Miss Smith, the 80-year-old paraplegic down the street because she likes looking at her hollyhocks. But those things happen. There's a lot of good in the world too. By the way, if I cough or sneeze, I am still getting over a little cold. This morning I started off sneezing repeatedly, and it was hard to sleep last night. My nose was so stuffed up. Yeah, it gets all fucking drippy and shit and all that other unpleasant stuff that happens when you're sick. First time I've been sick in over 3 years. My immune system's still kicking it, though. You know, it's not exactly a major sick. Mungi, at what point are people going to admit the Dems are full war hawking? Well, yeah, they've been doing that for a while. They're not going to admit to it, though. They're going to say this time it's different. This time we're defending democracy. It's funny because I remember that being a selling point for the war in Iraq, too. Saber Aaron, first to donate for pineapple pizza donations to Razor. Pineapple pizza supremacy. Also, is Trump going to go to Ohio, or has he canceled that now? I think he is still going. Ozzy's robots. Of course Biden is in Ukraine. He's salty that Putin is absconding with his 10% for the big guy. P.S. Northeast Florida, where I am, is awesome. Yeah, that part of Florida would probably be better than the southern part with all of its humidity and hurricanes and stuff. But I don't know if I want to be in a hurricane zone at all. Michael LaRusso. I wonder how difficult it is to get a CDL by you. I don't know. E100 Omega 123 Sticks. My buddy is writing a book about where the party switch lie comes from. Once he finishes, would you like a copy to read? Good job on the test. Yeah, that sounds good. I would get a copy. I'll just buy a copy. I don't need it gratis or anything. So just link me when it's done. Next news story. We have a new entry into the Republican race for the presidential nomination. Vivek Ramaswamy, who literally nobody ever heard of before the last week or so. I have a feeling that this is a little bit of astroturfing here. I went this morning, and I talked about this in my main morning video. I went to the Wikipedia article, and I expected, well, he's a Republican candidate. He's self-professedly anti-woke. I'm going to see they're going to be taking a shit on him, especially in the revision history. They're going to be talking about how he said the N-word 13 years ago or something like that. Nope. It's shining and glorious and praiseworthy. They are giving him nothing but positive coverage. Same with the legacy media articles talking about Ramaswamy as well. Methinks that there is a dark horse astroturf going on. This is basically an Obama moment for the GOP. They're taking what is effectively a unipartyist who has talked the talk but never had a chance to walk the walk because he's never been in politics. And they're trying to astroturf him in as the replacement for Trump. Well, if you like Donald Trump, you'll like Ramaswamy. He's younger and more dynamic, but he has the same principles. Let's see how good that actually goes over. I don't know. As far as he goes, he's untested. That's number one. Number two, the coverage and info about him that's available seems astroturf. Number two. Number three, for some reason, some people were saying that he announced on Tucker Carlson's show that he was running, but actually he did it at CPAC, and not sure exactly why some people are getting it wrong, including Wikipedia, oddly enough. Although they get a lot of shit wrong anyway. Here's the thing, though. This is actually a net positive for Donald Trump. The more people that get in the race, the more the anti-Trump vote dilutes. There will be people who say, well, Ramaswamy's our guy. He's not white. That ticks a box for, Republicans that are like, well, we need to out-Democrat the Democrats. He's explicitly anti-woke. That's good. I'll give him credit for that. He's written several books on the topic. So, you've got him. Then you've got Bolton, the core uniparty like McCain warmonger. You've got Nikki Haley, who is also a warmonger, but she's more palatable than Bolton. The more the field grows, the more packed it becomes, the easier it is for Donald Trump to goddamn steamroll these people. Because the anti-Trump vote will fall along ideological lines on single issues or on broad overarching multi-issues. The pro-Trump vote is incapable of being split. He's got 35-40% of the party sewn up behind him, depending on state, and that becomes another issue entirely. I haven't seen any even state poll that shows him under 30. And that is a hardened core of support. He's got very high in-party support anyway. At the end of the day, most of the partisans will vote for whoever the nominee is regardless. I think that many of them would prefer Trump. If you have a two-way race, like let's say it was Trump v. DeSantis, he would be in some trouble because DeSantis, in theory, could capture enough of those on-the-fence votes that like, well, I don't really like Trump, but I'm not core DeSantis. He could theoretically make it. But if it's Trump versus DeSantis and Ramaswamy and Haley and Bolton and two or three other people that are likely to throw their hats in the ring, let's face it, Trump wins. He absolutely wins the primaries, especially when, and I keep pointing this out and nobody wants to talk about it, some states which are very pro-Trump will suspend their primaries, giving him the delegates unilaterally because he is the technical incumbent. He's a former president. He's eligible for a second term. The VP is probably not running. That's Mike Pence. You don't have any other technical incumbent in the race. Honestly, I think that if Trump runs, He's got the advantage as well because he can choose any of these people as his potential running mate. Ramaswamy would be on that list. I think Kerry Lake would be. I don't think Mike Pence at this point is on that list. DeSantis would probably be at the top of it, although, again, a unity ticket like that is great in party. It's just I don't know about its effect on independents because DeSantis has been reviled the same way Trump has to those people by the legacy media. It'll be interesting to see what happens with the GOP primary. Mickelvo. Hey, Sticks, vlogging through history. Good channel. Made a rebuttal to Razorfist's Lincoln vid. Have you seen it? It would be nice to see collab. Cheers. I'll have to take a look at that. Vlogging through history. Interesting. C is for classified. Sticks for Prez. I wouldn't take the job even if you offered it to me on a golden platter because I'd have to go to DC. Kind of hard to do some gardening there. Yeah, you've got the rose garden fucking shit, but you got a bunch of landscapers that do that. You're too busy to be able to garden and shit. How am I going to do home canning if I have to run a fucking country into the ground like all the other presidents have other than Trump lately? TK, Kansas is voting on a school choice bill soon, next week, I think. HB 2218, the Sunflower Education Equity Act. I already called my rep. Kansas clankers, please help. Okay. There's a little shout out for your effort. If clankers want to help out, they can do so. Fair Frozen 55. Wait, Vivek from the Tribunal? Why is a Dunmer running for office in the United States? Is he bringing his 36 lessons to the mongrel Imperials of Cyrodiil? Dagoth does not approve of this. Nerevar. Yeah, no, I think his candidacy, what they're going to do is this. Here's my prediction. I talked about this earlier. They're going to astroturf him. They'll softball him. They'll give him good media slots. He can talk about what he believes in. And they'll see how much organic attraction arises. Is he going to be on the DeSantis level, double digits, solid, potentially a marriageable candidate? Or is he going to be in Nikki Haley or John Bolton territory? They're still trying to find someone to be the anti-Trump. Again, DeSantis, with each person that enters the race, becomes less likely to run, in my opinion. Still, certainly a possibility, but if he's looking at it as, hey, every time a person enters the race, they're splitting my potential vote, it gets harder and harder. I have to debate these motherfuckers as well. I can get hit from the right. I can lose my job because MAGA hates me for primarying Trump. What's in it for me? In a non-crowded field, it's more likely that DeSantis gets in, then you have an actual competitive primary. In the absence of that, dark horse is the only way you can go, which is why they're loading the field now. Francisco, Jeep Wrangler or Mercedes G-Wagon if that subscriber count keeps going up? Yeah, just I like Jeeps that have the flat back. I do not like the extension on the back of some of them. It makes them look more truck-like. I like old school looking Jeeps. Sparky says diaper money. Thank you. I always use that. Plantation sensation. What a grand and intoxicating candidate you are. Yeah, that's how they're treating Ramaswamy right now. Fluff pieces. The Southern V. Hey, Sticks, I'm turning mother into a Trump voter. She is tired of Biden's BS and family members who are not paying attention. Good on you. ZB Man 100. If Trump dropped out, who would you support? I would want Rand Paul to get in. In the absence of Rand Paul, I think DeSantis is a fine candidate. I just have my misgivings if he jumps in against Trump, splitting that vote, causing the havoc that the Dems want. It just doesn't look good to me. And another big part of it is that free speech concern with the hate speech law that's being considered there. If the part about billeting is not parsed out of the bill and he signs it, that will be potentially a bridge too far for me. Ramaswamy sounds fine. I want to see him grilled more. I don't want to see softball articles. I want to see people poke into his life the same way they've done with Trump and all of these other people and not softball him. If he comes out unscathed and he looks good, he would be potentially a saleable candidate to me. Nikki Haley wouldn't. Bolton wouldn't. I wouldn't vote for Ted Cruz. Rubio, probably not. I don't know. I mean, he's kind of redeemed himself a little bit, but he's still little Marco after all. The last, what if they do a Biden and all drop out a month before and endorse DeSantis as a coordinated attack? They attempted that with Ted Cruz, remember in 2016. Corey Alexander. When he was on Timcast, he really talked the talk. Ramaswamy, that is. Yeah, but talk is cheap. He can say whatever he wants. I need to see a little bit more meat on them bones. Josh Backus, Paperback Money, my favorite series of all time, The Dresden Files. Book is called Stormfront. Hope you enjoy. Real Men, Real Movies. Let's be honest, the GOP isn't nominating someone with that long foreign name. Think of Uncle Billy Bob in Texas pronouncing that. The face of the GOP has changed. It's gobbled up more and more Hispanic voters, so it is more of a cosmopolitan party at this point, uniting mainly around economic and social populism. Some of his ideas sound good, but they're still on paper. Just because an idea sounds good doesn't mean that it necessarily is carried through with. David Gettle, F the state, rock on, brother, that is all. Dark Gary 92, I don't care about the other candidates, but Trump is the first candidate I've seen in my lifetime that made promises and actually tried to keep them. Trump 2024, exactly. Even if he was imperfect and didn't follow through with everything, he made an attempt at all of the things that he talked about for the most part. We haven't seen that in a very long time, and that's important. Vu Viet Hung sent 100,000 currency of some sort, and I'm not exactly sure what it is. But thank you anyway. Transylvanian 90, Ramaswamy can't get the nomination unless the GOP is suicidal. A long foreign last name would depress the vote. See Mehmet Oz with the GOP base. I don't think that it was Mehmet Oz's name. I think it was more his dual citizenship with Turkey. And the fact that he wasn't really a strong candidate. Again, in that particular candidacy field for 2022, the mythology is that, oh, Trump's endorsed candidates were all weaklings. That's why we didn't take the Senate. That's not true, but there were a couple of candidates that were weak, and Mehmet Oz was one of them. I pointed this out very early on. I didn't even make a guess in that race. I fucking flipped a coin. Sparky, how is Stick supposed to run both Clankistan and the U.S.? He should focus on being fearless leader over clankdom, and I shall. If I was going to run for any office, it'd be something local or state level. You know, Montpelier is much better than D.C. Musically assured destruction. Have you seen Mr. Regan's video on the O'Keefe situation? He thinks the board was worried about the IRS looking into the company's expenditures. Oh, probably. Why wouldn't they? They would love to destroy such a company. But that's not a reason to jettison someone and then lose about 15% of all your followers, which they literally have. It's approaching 300,000 people lost just on their main Twitter. And I think 60,000 on YouTube at the last I checked. And they're still hemorrhaging. Pepe Payne on Rumble. I gave the Europe driving test to a whole brigade of soldiers in 2014. Guess what the mission was? Ukraine supply shift. Moving vehicles there. Start of this BS? Probably. Sounds plausible in this day and age. Next news story, speaking of DeSantis. Palin tells Ron DeSantis to sit out 24 presidential race. Says he could run someday, but not right now. DeSantis doesn't need to run, Palin said. I hate to agree with Sarah Palin, but I think that she's right. Ron DeSantis has relatively little political experience. In his first term as governor of Florida, he was barely elected. It was by a margin of only a few tens of thousands of votes. This came after being endorsed by Trump. Had he not been endorsed full-throatedly by Trump, I don't think that he would have won. And Florida would have been left with a drug addict and fraudster as their governor. Well, there have been cases of that before anyway. You know, I think Christ was governor for a while. So it's a par for the course for such a corrupt state anyway. I agree with this. DeSantis is ill-served by getting in. Trump is ill-served by getting in. Florida is ill-served by getting in. Of course, you run in Florida, you get reelected massively. It's by like 20 points. The people of Florida like you as governor, be governor. Right now would be an unhelpful time to do that. I do find that funny, though, because I remember that Sarah Palin was the one that sank the John McCain presidential campaign. Do you remember that? Way, way back in the day, back in 2008. This individual named Sarah Palin managed to single-handedly fuck John McCain sideways in the asshole. Thought it was a good idea at the time because I was never a John McCain fan. I think that my track record of despising him has aged like fine wine. Sarah Palin a little bit less so at this point. But the famous statement was she went rogue. She started holding her own pressers and saying things that were not necessarily minted by the McCain staff themselves. And it just turned into a free-for-all to the point where John McCain towards the end was fated to lose. Definitely. I think that that's funny. I give her credit for that. Thank you. You kept John McCain out of the White House. The alternative wasn't exactly great either, but I mean, even Obama's better than John McCain. I can think of only a very small number of people within politics that get to the John McCain level of awful. Obama, at the very least, he normalized relations with Cuba and stood out of the way of the energy boom, something that his acolyte Biden has failed to do, by the way. That's what I'm talking about. Hell, Obama would be doing a much better job than Biden right now. I hate to sound nostalgic for the bad old days, but these current days, sociopolitically, are worse somehow. Troy Davidson, hi, Sticks, Americans studying in Japan. No college degree. Do you think I should return to the U.S. for college ed? Japan college, other. 24 years old. Well, I don't know anything about the Japanese educational system other than I know that it's slave drivers there for teachers and professors, very competitive. I suppose if you can make it in Japan, you can make it anywhere would apply here. So maybe just stay in Japan. Plus, you get fucking fresh sushi and pizza from vending machines and all sorts of other cool shit. XX Taste. Definitely get a Jeep, Sticks. Boyfriend has a JK and I have a JL and we love them. Jeep community is almost as good as being cultish as Clankdom. Congrats again on your test. Yes, but only if I can find the kind of Jeeps that are shorter for parallel parking purposes. Otherwise, I'm just going to get like a little compact Euro car. Something that zooms around. I mean, I would get a Bromobile in, but you can't take them on the motorway. You can't take them on the highway system. Plus, I don't know if you can really fit a baby carrier in a Bromobile in. By the way, a Bromobile, for people in the United States, you've never heard of that. It's like a miniaturized version of a car, but it's actually classed as a moped, but it's treated as a full-on motor vehicle. It's a confusing system at times, let me tell you. Now look up Snorfeetson and find out what that means. Speed Pedelec. Self-reliant patriot. For so long, I thought I was hearing chomp, chomp, chomp sounds coming from your cats, like my weird cat does, only to realize recently it was your mouse wheel. I'm shocked. There's no wheel on the mouse. This isn't the 1990s. So yeah, Palin saying to DeSantis he should sit it out. Now, whether he does or not, of course, is his prerogative entirely. I would just say, as someone who's not like an anti-fan of Ron DeSantis, a dust-up primary is not necessarily a helpful thing right now. Next news story, Kevin McCarthy gave Tucker Carlson exclusive access to 41,000 hours of sensitive January 6th footage. What could possibly go wrong? Via Maddow blog. Right now, the leftoids are irate because Tucker Carlson has been able to obtain all of the J6 footage, all of the file work and shit that was excluded from the J6 committee hearings, which were conducted by the Democratic Party and by Liz Cheney, who you haven't heard of lately now, have you? It's funny, I thought she was going to be a presidential contender. I thought she was going to be Woman of the Year and all these things. She doesn't even goddamn do anything anymore. My prediction turned out to be correct. She hit with a thud, and now she is completely forgotten. Hell, Kinzinger has more clout than Liz Cheney at this point. They were poising her to be the next, fucking savior, then the next Queen Mary or something like that, and it's not going to happen. It fell through. I guess Bolton getting into a race is going to keep her out because it's the same audience. Here's my problem. Tucker Carlson works for a major multi-billion-dollar globalist corporation. He doesn't have full freedom to put out exactly what he wants on the airwaves. Now, I think that he does have populist leaning views. Now, and I can be acerbic to Tucker Carlson, but I don't think he's a total shitfuck. I just think that you're not going to get anything meaningful from this. This is not releasing the footage. This is giving it to a third party to parse through and then collate and curate. But Tucker Carlson is strangulated by the editorialists at Fox News, by the people who pay him. Therefore, I don't think you're going to get a full-on, full-blast report, a 2-hour special on footage that would be inconvenient for the Unipartists, because the Unipartists control Fox. And they've already made that clear. They have soured on Trump. They've soured on MAGA. They've thrown populism under the bus. The fact that Tucker Carlson has it is better than if you gave it to maybe CNN or something, but that doesn't matter because he's going to be forced to curate that material in a way that the editorialists there will accept. He'll be able, therefore, to take a dump on the Democratic Party, but you'll probably conspicuously miss any mention of the Uniparty that was actually involved in originally curating that material. Liz Cheney might be put on blast because she's out and nobody likes her anyway. Other than that, though, it'll be just, the Democrats did this. The Democrats are robbing you of your republic. Well, it's more than that. Look at what Mitch McConnell does. Or Kevin McCarthy himself, although he has some redeeming qualities. Hey, at least he did give the footage out. It's just he didn't make it public. He makes it semi-public. It's basically a cope. Let's see here. The cat's watching herself intermittently. Panic at the Bistro. Good morning, Sticks. Wanted to get more clarity as to why you dislike Trey Parker and Matt Stone. Clank from North Carolina. Shout out my boy Justin. Just got me into Clankdom. Who are Trey Parker and Matt Stone? I don't know. I'm drawing a blank. I don't know. I wasn't aware that I disliked them. So yeah, when to all the people there simping for Tucker Carlson, when you don't get full disclosure on this video material, then you can thank me for having been right, because that is what will happen. You're not going to get full disclosure. You'll get attacks on the Dems. He'll run it for a few weeks. He'll chuckle about it. He'll do what he's paid to do, and then he will drop the issue. Don't say didn't tell you so. Next news story, and this is connected to that. SHIB panics over release of January 6th footage, goes into conspiracy overdrive. I will say that handing off the footage to Tucker, even though, again, you're not going to get full disclosure, it does have the happy impact of making Adam Schiff insane. I mean, more insane than normal. Look, his bugged out eyes, by the way. I mean, this is from Red States. They're not going to use a flattering picture of him or anything anyway. Adam Schiff on Twitter, as reported here. Kevin McCarthy turned over Jan 6 videos to right-wing propagandist Tucker Carlson, a man who spews Kremlin talking points. Interesting. Yeah, like you shouldn't start World War III. That's Putin's new talking point now. Suggests January 6th was a false flag, which I don't think he has actually suggested. It's more like, hey, it's a protest that got too rowdy. The only person who died that day was a protester. You're being hyperbolic about it, Mr. Schiff, and spreads the big lie. Make no mistake, this isn't about transparency. It's about fueling dangerous conspiracy theories. Well, I mean, it's going to help Fox News. One hand washes the other. Fox loves Kevin McCarthy. Don't worry, Schiff. You and other Democrats will take flack because you hid footage deliberately from the American people to paint a picture of January 6th that wasn't actually true. We already know this, by the way. We know this directly. But you're not going to, don't worry, you won't end up in a cell or anything like that because Fox will sanitize it. It will. It'll be said. Tucker doesn't even have to have a hand in it. The editorial board will sanitize it. Then they'll give it back to Tucker and say, here's what you can talk about and here's what you can't. Transylvanian 90, they're the creators of South Park. Oh, I don't dislike South Park. Not at all. I haven't seen it in years, though. I watched it some when I was younger. Chris Kelly, please shout out my dinner. Red dal with ghee, onion, garlic, ginger, turmeric, garam masala, tomatoes, chilies, and chopped cilantro, as you say in the U.S. Sounds good. It's Indian food. Liz won't let me make Indian food often enough. She's not a big fan of curry. I fucking love it. I use more than the recipes call for if I use a recipe at all. But chili, well, I can spice that up and make it good. Maybe I'll put some curry in it secretly. Don't tell nobody. Arnett23me. I was watching some videos about realignments, and it seems like we're going through exactly what leads to one. Divided government, huge amounts of corruption, and debating issues no one cares about. We need new ideas and ideology. My new idea is just do it yourself and be independent and exempt yourself from the system that's obviously so broken. I've been telling people that for years. Often I get shit for it, too. It's like if I tell an environmentalist, hey, you like helping the environment, right? Yeah. Go plant some trees. No, I don't have time for that. Why don't you buy less plastic shit? Well, I need this for reasons. I need something that didn't even exist 30 years ago for some inexplicable reason. If you tell someone, for instance, who's like a white nationalist, and you say, well, you think that, Caucasians will disappear. Why don't you go have a couple more kids? You don't have any kids usually. No, I can't do that. Well, why? Because the system is broken. Well, it's going to stay broken until you do something, and you're not even willing to do the most easy thing there. So, fuck off. Stop talking about problems if you're going to reject literally any solution to those issues. I've been telling it loud and proud now for years. Work on self-improvement, exempt yourself from the system, learn a new skill, and quit a vice. You've already improved yourself more than apparently 99% of people are physically and mentally capable of doing. You should rise to the top pretty quickly in such a non-competitive market of morons. Null hypothesis. The J6 video is public property and should be FOIA'd immediately. I agree. Also, it was withheld from defendants in J6 insurrection trials. Mistrials. Yeah. Yeah, that should be done. Absolutely. Next news story. Media censorship of Hunter Biden laptop story was horrible, and then it got even worse. Yes, Fox, the only ones, the controlled opposition network, the only ones that'll talk about this, by the way. Most people have forgotten Hunter Biden's laptop exists, which is rather sad, but ultimately, sadly predictable. Hunter Biden laptop coverage went from guilt and fear to revisionist history. Here we are in February 2023, nearly 2.5 full years after the Hunter Biden laptop suppression, and the Washington Post fact-checker column publishes a new report titled The Hunter Biden Laptop and Claims of Russia Disinfo. Glenn Kessler notes that among his media colleagues in October 2020, few were willing to report information in the New York Post stories without their own due diligence, especially if Russia was once again seeking to meddle in the election now. Of course, what was said at the time, and which was true, and was suppressed, including by tech censorship until more recently, is that the suppression of that was a meddling in the 2020 election. The election was meddled with by the deep state on behalf of the unipartyists, represented by Joe Biden, although they would have been fine with a Republican. If they could have primaried out Trump and had, a Jeb Bush candidate, they wouldn't have bothered doing anything further, because then you've got two controlled opposition candidates and it does not matter who wins. Hence Obama Romney, hence Obama McCain, hence Joe Biden versus, most other candidates but Donald Trump or some other Dem. They're controlled opposition. It's been the way that things have been since the late 1980s, basically. The last time that we had a president other than Trump who was actually full-fledgedly independent was the first term of Ronald Reagan. Second term doesn't count. He starts getting loopy in the head. We know that he started suffering from cognitive decline before he left office. Don't fucking kid me, including you, Ronald Reagan's son. Sorry, but the other son agrees with me. Quite clearly was being more controlled at that time. He had slowed down a lot. And corporations got in there and told him what to do, and military brass and groups like that. That's why his second term was nowhere near as good as the first. Morning in America again? Well, the morning's done. It's like mid-afternoon now, but it's partially sunny, so just fucking deal with it, proles. And then, of course, it was nighttime in America throughout the W years, and it was all right under Clinton, but that had nothing to do with his policies, and the rest is history. So, yeah, the Hunter Biden laptop story was covered up. And now the cover-up's being covered up. There are people that have gone back and said, well, no, I never said that it was fake at the time. And then you unearth a tweet from 2 years ago, and it clearly says just that. This goes through some of that. It's really, really funny because I don't remember seeing many retractions for the publications and their lies in the first place. Some of them declared outright. They made a positive and objective declaratory statement that it was Russian disinfo, or that the laptop didn't exist. This is all bullshit by the Trump campaign. It's screwy. They made an objective statement of that being the fact, and it wasn't. And as far as I know, none of them have apologized for having done so. NPR, partially taxpayer funded, came out and said, here's why we're not reporting on it, because there's nothing to report on. How do we know this? Because there's nothing to report on. Circular reasoning. Well, not even circular, more like trapezoidal reasoning in their case. And keep in mind, some of your tax money goes to fund these fucking morons. And the last news story, this one just for humor's sake. Wild super pigs in Canada poised to wreak environmental havoc and spread disease in the U.S., expert says. Pigs are reportedly extremely intelligent, can grow to over 600 pounds, a little bit scary, and are hard to eradicate. See, years ago, what they did is they crossed domestic pigs, which can get fucking gigantic and all weird looking. They're like weird colored and sweaty, and I'm not really a fan of pigs. Pot-bellied mini pigs, that's okay, but I'm not really a fan of the porcine side of the animal world, other than eating them. Bacon is good, of course, and put a little ham and peas together. Every person in Ireland will be salivating. I think it's good, by the way. But they crossbred them with European wild boars. And then some of the farmers up in Canada, when the demand fell down, they just let the stock loose. And they're like, well, it's Canada. It gets like 30 fucking below here. They're not going to survive. The problem is that they survived, and now they're breeding. It's sort of like the wild boar problem in Texas. They talk about that further down in the article. Well, there's this other kind of, feral hog down in Texas. It's become a massive problem. By the way, another reason people do need AR-15s and potentially larger weapons if the pig happens to be 600 pounds, to hunt them, because they breed out of control and they raid farms, and they will eat grain. They will eat vegetative matter. They will eat trash. They will eat wild forage. They will eat bushes. They will eat your flowers. They could eat you, potentially. They'll eat basically anything. They're like a goddamn garbage disposal system. About the only thing that comes even close are goats. And by the way, they don't actually eat tin cans. They lick the glue and the labels and eat those. Since they can eat everything, and if they do survive to a large enough size, they're covered in layer after layer of blubber and can survive easily sub-zero temperatures. And because they have no natural predators, I mean, in this habitat, what would predate upon them? A bear might. If they're old and sick, they might get predated upon by wolves or by coyotes. 600-pound pig. Do you really think that the wolf pack doesn't have better things to do than fuck around with the pig that's surrounded by 40 or 50 other big-ass pigs? I think that they're probably fine. Other than the infant mortality in the old and sick, for the most part, predators, I mean, a black bear on average is not 600 pounds. They're not gonna be able to do anything about them. So if they come down into the United States, like, let's say, I don't know, the Champlain Valley of Vermont with all of its farms and fields, yeah, there's going to be some goddamn problems, especially since governments keep trying to disarm people. They also keep trying to hyper-regulate hunting. In some cases, hunting, while it can be grisly, and some people just do it for sport and they don't even eat the meat, and I don't agree with that. Hyper-regulating it creates a problem. I remember years ago, and I don't think it's still this way, I think they loosened up. They hyper-restricted hunting deer in Connecticut. This was back, I think, at the end of the 90s. And the deer population exploded with growth because, again, the wolves had been eradicated from New England for generations. Coyotes can predate upon them, again, upon the young or the old, generally have other things on their mind. And so the deer population went from, nominal, to massive, and they were eating trash and invading people's gardens and shit. And then they got sick, and the population collapsed, and they were all fucking diseased because there was no culling of the herd. This is an invasive species, and so eradicating it, making it extinct continentally makes sense. They need to step up their efforts in Texas, by the way, apparently, because they keep having a problem down there. I have never seen a wild boar and probably would not want to. The last thing on my mind for a good walk in the woods when I'm back in Rutland is to meet a 600-pound pig. I don't think that the Glock 17 is going to do much against that. At that point, it's basically, I hope I can run just fast enough to get up this tree that's too big for it to knock over. Maybe I'll succeed, or maybe the bacon will be eating me today. It's not a BLT, it's an HLT, human lettuce and tomatoes, and the pigs will love it. So when little kids start getting killed by these pigs, as they probably will at some indefinite point, people, they might have a little problem with that. Go out and kill them. And you can eat them. They're partially farmed stock originally, so why not? As long as you cook it properly. Don't get yourself trichinosis. By the way, please send no more super chats. I've got some to go through here, and I've gotten through the news. I'm going to keep it a little bit on the shorter side today, I think. Mungi, I don't believe in politician loyalty, but it's amazing how fast the GOP is trying to drop the best admin of our lives. This blackpilling can't winnerism. What? Yeah, they don't like Trump because he actually did what he said he wanted to do. They expected him to do a 180 when he got into office. He tricked them by having Pence as his VP, by the way. They expected he'd do what the average politician does. Well, I've made these 10 promises. I'll half keep 2 of them. And then the rest, you sweep it under the rug. Biden is actually having this problem. He hasn't kept to most of his promises to the far left. They're actually angry about it, although they give him kind of sort of a pass because Orange Man bad. Drennan, plant horseradish right now. Wish me luck. Horseradish is good. Yum. Put that on a chili dog. That's what I'm talking about. I wish I could get horseradish in this country. I'd whip up some good shit. It's good if you're stuffed up like I am because you're getting over a cold. Horseradish is great. That's why I'm going to make it so extra spicy. I want to sweat and turn red in the face and shit like that. I think did you post it twice? Or did it jump up? I think it jumped up. Sorry. Transylvanian 90. I love how humans are obsessed with preserving all animal species, but if one is farm-derived and escapes, we go full Pol Pot mode. It's a new life form. Yeah, we should eradicate them and eat them because they are tasty. I just don't like factory farming, but these pigs are living out in the wild. They're living a good life. Kill them. End their lives. Make them suffer like they make others suffer. QGG639. Oops, I've been telling kids at petting zoos that the goats eat tin cans. Yeah, that's not actually the case, believe it or not. They might chew on them, but they're trying to get the glue and the paper off. They're trying to eat that. Aussies robots. Imagine a few residents of East Palestine fly to Mexico, cross the border as illegal immigrants, and end up with free food, housing, medical. Next Veritas story. Yeah, I can't remember who it was years ago. They dressed as Osama and crossed the border illegally. They were a U.S. citizen, but technically illegally, and got across. No problem. I can't remember who pulled that trick back in the day. If you posted that these days on YouTube, you'd get banned probably. So yeah, we have wild boars are coming down from Canada as well as up from Texas. And it'd be funny, the two stocks, where they meet, like, in Missouri or something like that. It'd be funny to see them fight. Canadian boars versus Texas boars. Which one will survive? Sticks, please secure Alcolol from the local CVS pharmacy. It breaks down mucus. Alcohol, you say? No, I'm just joking. Yeah, there is no CVS pharmacy here, though. All of the medicine is in Dutch. The shit hits the fan zombie survival situation. I'll have to take my chances with some of the medications that are there. I mean, I know what ibuprofen is, but some of them I'll be like, let's see. Is this does that say poison or gangrene treatment? I guess we'll find out tonight. Yeah, hunting pigs with a helicopter. That's pretty funny. I'm not a really big fan of hunting. Like, I've deployed traps before, but just for garden defense. I figure if something wanders into the garden, you can kill it, and then of course you get the extra protein. You can eat it. Of course, most of what wanders into the garden is unpalatable. I'm not a fan of the idea of gutting and eating a skunk, because knowing me, I'd probably, accidentally open up its stinky organ, and then I wouldn't be able to eat anything because I would smell terribly. And then I'd have to waste a bunch of tomato juice. I wonder if ketchup can be used instead of tomato juice to wash off skunk smell. Amy in Connecticut, have you considered trying to learn Dutch, Sticks? Excuse sorry, I'm still stuffed up. Yes, actually. I do know some Dutch. I'm just not confident enough to speak in it, and I'm not good as much at understanding it, but I can read fairly literally in Dutch at this point. It's much easier for me to read other languages than it is for me to absorb it when it's being spoken, because when I'm reading, I can slow down, I can pay attention to context, etc. Can't do that when someone's speaking live to you. This is why internet interactions are easier for me, by the way, than real world interactions, for the same reason. Possum is greasy. Never tried possum. Pepe Le Pew arrested on decades-old sexual harassment charges. Lamont Raub, are there skunks in the Netherlands? No, not that I know of. I don't think so. There's a huge amount of avian life and a lot of fish species and stuff. There aren't a lot of like little creepy crawly animals other than the occasional mouse or rat, actually. I haven't even seen a squirrel in this country. I don't know if they exist in this country. I'm not 100% sure. Anyway, I think I'm going to go offline. About 50 minutes in. I thank you to the the slightly over 6,000 people that have been watching. Almost as many watching on Rumble, by the way, as YouTube. The numbers keeps creeping upwards, which I am very thankful for, because, at any given time, anything can happen to your YouTube channel. Some people get banned outright for without any strikes over 13-year-old content at this point. So, we are going into election season. It wouldn't surprise me too much if I get targeted for removal. Although they've already algorithmically demoted me so much, maybe they don't even bother to. They don't even give a shit. That's about all. Peace out.